So what I want to talk about is platform businesses. We talk a lot about data here, and usually businesses that need a lot of data are platforms. And the first question we kind of, or I have for you is like, we all know Uber, we all know Airbnb, we all know Facebook, but what is an actual platform is in its essence? What does a normal business convert it into a platform business? And so one of the basic definitions is that you have a user, you have a producer, and you facilitate a match between those so there can be value creation. In our case, and that's what we're working for in FundSupport, is to match social enterprises and nonprofits with funding bodies. So how do they can spend their money most efficiently? In order to start that whole thing, you need to understand the network effects that are happening there. So you want to know what are the positive and what are the negative effects, and how can you use the positive one and avoid the negative ones. So if we get more funding bodies on our platform, there's more funding for the nonprofits there, but on the other side, it also makes our matching process harder, which results in a negative effect if we cannot match properly anymore. On the other side, more producers will also result in more funding bodies trusting in the platform, but also have competition between them. If you then get more nonprofits on the platform, you create a community, but also competition between those nonprofits because they're competing for the same funding. The same way, they increase the reach for producers, for funding bodies, but at the same time, if the match doesn't work properly, the quality of applications will decrease. And then once you've understood that for your platform, you can get into the all around and most important, like talked about, chicken and egg problem that a platform always has. So do you first get the users? Do you first get the producers? How do you start? There's a book called Platform Revolution. And so one of the things they talk about is that there's basically 8 different strategies you can go about it. And I want to talk about a couple of them that we tried. So we started with something called the seed strategy. Basically, we put a couple of funding opportunities in our platform. It's not so important what's written there, but basically we just put by hand funding opportunities in there. The problem with that is the amount of time you spend putting the funding opportunities in your database. And even if you put 100 or 200 funding opportunities in there, most of the nonprofits will not find the right ones for them. So that's the liquidity. That's what meant with liquidity. So we tried seeding, but differently. So we used crawlers and crawled all the funding opportunities that are in there. So in a matter of 2 weeks, we had 5,000 funding opportunities. Problem there, usually the funding opportunities are written in text, so you don't get the essential information out of it. So then your matching becomes very difficult, which also then leads to bad matches, so that doesn't really work. So we went back to a more hands-on approach, single-sided strategy. So we started with nonprofits and went to them and were like, okay, what do you want money for? Describe your problem, we will search the money for you. This is obviously like consultancy-based kind of thing, so it's not scalable. And on the other side, actually it's really hard to find funding. That's why we're trying to do. And you could feel how even if you like did that for 3-4 months, it's still hard for you to find the right funding. So we changed again. We went to something called the producer evangelism. Basically, we're going to funding bodies that have 5 or more, maybe 20 funding programs, and we build a search engine only for their specific website so that the users from them can actually find the best funding opportunities on their specific website. That gives us automatically users. We can test it, and we can slowly scale it up. We know the funding opportunities very much in detail because we work with the funding bodies. So we know exactly what's okay and what's not okay, what are the guidelines for each funding, so the match can be very well. And then the next step, once you've found how to get into the market, you need to measure your success. So you need metrics. And one of the key metrics, if you start, it's the rate of interaction success. So how often can you make a successful match between the people or the users on your platform and the producers on your platform? And there's three things you can measure. The one is the liquidity, which basically means like how many funding opportunities can I find on the platform. The second one is the matching. How good is that match actually for me? And the third one, if I find something, do I actually trust it? Do I trust the producer? Do I trust the nonprofit on the other side? Those are like the key things you will focus on. Then to kind of show you the scale of the issue we're working with, which from like a data perspective, it's not like a huge problem. But finding in Germany, there's 600,000 nonprofits and about 22,000 foundations plus public funding plus other ways to get to funding. We try to funnel this down to something more capable that a normal nonprofit can actually handle from a data point. And the way we do it, it's also like talked about a lot here. So you have a reinforcing machine learning. So if you have positive matches, then you will reinforce those matches. And the same thing, the second layer we have. So we believe that sometimes the people looking for funding, they don't actually know what they're looking for. So sometimes they will select the wrong keywords or they will select the wrong filters. So we actually analyze the text they've written about their project and about their funding program. And then with this natural language processing, we will actually match those ones on the written texts, because sometimes even selecting the filters is difficult for the people that, this area, definitely not tech. Because there's a lot of, like on the foundation side, a lot of 60+ year people that only worked with paper, like even using Word documents, that's high tech for them, kind of, like that's the level we're talking about. And then maybe something more general, like where is platforms helpful or good to use? Usually it's information intensive, so funding opportunities, there's a lot of information to read through. Highly fragmented markets, so there's a lot of funding consultants, but there's no big company that does it. At least not in Germany, and also worldwide, I haven't found something really big that do it a lot. And then you have this extreme information asymmetry. So there's the funding bodies that know exactly what they want, and then there's the nonprofits that don't have a clue what actually that all means, what they're writing there. So they don't, you can read the funding opportunities 3 times and you still don't understand if you can actually fit for this specific funding program or not. So with that, I want to thank you. This is an amazing team that makes it possible, that works with me. And if we have if you have time for a question.